The Cubs had an opportunity to sweep the Colorado Rockies this past weekend. Unfortunately, they did not. We're going to recap that and a lot more coming up next here on the Setup Man Podcast. What is going on, everyone? I'm Ty Lewin alongside Kyle Stanley, and this is the Setup Man Podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, comment, and like this video. And if you are listening on audio, please follow us and leave us a 5-star review. All of these help us get the word out to more Cub fans. On the agenda today, Kyle, we're going to talk about the Cubs winning the series in Denver, along with where they stand alongside the Mets and the Padres for the top wild card position going into September. And finally, we'll preview the upcoming series, first series of September, wild time flies, at Wrigley against the Atlanta Braves. But before we get into anything, Kyle, we have a huge event coming up here in a couple of days. What do we got?
We surely do, brother. So this is going to be our very first Setup Man hangout in person. Not hosted by, not hosted by Locked On and Joint Venture. This is just straight up, we're doing this. And the reason is because, as you can see on your screen here, if you're watching on video, if you're not, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. We've got myself, Ty, Brian, and Alex, 2 chances. Actually, during Hall of Fame weekend, our good buddy Brian here reminded us that it is Hall of Fame weekend coming up September 5th, Gallagher Way after the game. And then September 6th in the left field bleachers, we're going to link up with Cody Del Mendo, who's now got his own channel, used to be with CHGO. We're going to be doing that event in the bleachers. So if you can join us in the bleachers, please do. That's going to be an absolute blast. But either way, I'm just very excited to get together with you guys. I'm excited to meet some of our fans. I'm excited to see some good baseball in the month of September. That would be really nice. Please and thank you.
It would be pretty nice because that series was a little frustrating in itself, but we're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about the series, like we said, Kyle, and we'll talk about the road trip here. So let's start with game 1. The offense obviously finally came out of basically retirement and decided to put up 15 hits and 11 runs. They did win 11-7. Cade Horton did okay on the bump. This was probably expected at a field like obviously at Coors, but 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, 4 Ks, giving up 1 homer. Ben Brown and Drew Pomeranz, 2 2/3, 6 hits, 4 earned, 5 Ks. Did have 0 walks, but that was sort of why that score got up there a little bit towards the latter half of the game. But offensively, Dansby Swanson 3 for 5 with a double and 2 bombs and 6 RBIs, and Ian Happ, a name we'll mention on later on, 3 for 5. As well. Game 2, Cubs win 4-3. Javier Assad with an outstanding start for him. Very, very clutch, obviously, with the corresponding move coming up when Tyone went on the injured list. But 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 3 earned, 2 walks, 1 K. Tucker was 2 for 3 with 2 runs and an RBI. And the bullpen was outstanding. 3 innings pitched, 0 hits, 0 walks, 3 Ks. The game we'll talk about probably the most here in our first segment. They did lose in game 3, of course, 5-4. They did tie it up in the 8th on an Ian Happ game-tying home run, a 3-run bomb that I've not seen him strut out of the box like that. So that was really cool to see. But unfortunately, Daniel Palencia, which is a name we'll talk about as well, did blow it in the 9th. Pretty hilarious to think about this too, Kyle. According to Marquee today, Tyler Gordon, the starting pitcher for the Rockies, has the lowest whiff rate this season with a minimum of 200 batters faced at 15.1%. The MLB average is 25%. Well, he went ahead and went 6 innings pitched, 2 earned, 9 strikeouts. So that was a lot of fun to watch him do that to us today. But just like we mentioned, Ian Happ, of course, was obviously the player of this game that really stood out with going 6 for 12 in the series, 3 doubles, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and 3 runs scored. Just hit his 4th home run this year off a lefty, putting him at 18 on the year total. The Cubs finished the road trip at 5-4, a disappointing 5-4 that I think we can both agree on, and 15-14 in the month of August. Well, Kyle, let's start with game 3 there, okay? Because that's on everyone's mind. A game that was extremely boring there for a little bit. We talked about, obviously Nolan Ryan, I mean Tyler Gordon on the mound against the Cubs. But Kyle, I just want your overall thoughts on Game 3. I know we have a few things specifically we want to touch on, but just really disappointing finish to this road trip.
Yeah, I will say one thing. Your stats there about Tyler Gordon. If you didn't watch this game and you look at those stats, you say, wow, the Cubs came and had their typical getaway Sunday, getaway day type of hangover performance. And I got to tell you, I mean, this guy, Gordon, actually impressed me. I mean, he was hitting his spots. I wouldn't say the stuff blew me away, but he was hitting his spots in the most crucial part of the counts. His slider and changeup were always down in the zone. And when you have a guy doing that, I don't care if it's in Coors or not. It's just tough to hit, whether he's throwing 91 miles an hour or 99 miles an hour. I just felt like Tyler Gordon probably gave the performance of this season for himself, and it just happened to come against the Cubs, kind of the opposite of what the Brewers experience on just about any pitcher that throws against them. So let's just give that as, first of all, I thought he was good. If you didn't think he was good and you just thought the Cubs didn't do a good job or didn't have a good approach, please let me know in the comments. But from what I saw, I thought he was good. The next thing is, I think I would like to just assume that Matthew Boyd is going to pick up this chapter of August and just say, let's move on, because this was a very mid-August. Aside from a really good first start of the month, in the last 5 starts, he has a 5.65 ERA, including today. And you and I were texting about it. It just doesn't look like he's fooling a lot of guys. Even when he gets his out, it's a deep fly ball, or it's a pop up that the guy still got the barrel on. And in that 4th inning, he had 2 outs, nobody on. It's a tie game, and the batter was down 0-2. And you probably look at all the stats of probability that he gets out of this inning is probably 99.9% unscathed. And then he goes up and gives another 2 runs up after an 0-2 with 2 outs and nobody on. So it's just been that kind of way for Matthew Boyd recently. And looking at the matchup today, still was just okay, I feel very good about this game, given the fact that this guy Gordon has a mid-6 ERA, and Matthew Boyd, even though he hasn't been pitching well, it's probably going to still go the Cubs' way. Well, that's why they play the game of baseball, I guess, Ty. That's why they say that, is that if you were just going to go out there and you were going to win based on the odds, then why even play the game? Because the Cubs, I'm sure, were heavily favored. That's probably why Alex Brault put a bet on them today that they were going to win, which is exactly why the Cubs lost. So even though he's not here, let's go ahead and give him all of the flowers for that. But
again,
honestly, man, it just felt like a really good effort from the opposing starting pitcher, a really great clutch hit from Ian Happ, and then just an interesting, I'm not going to call it questionable. A few people have on social media called it questionable. I know we probably want to talk about this, but the Daniel Palencia situation of a tie game in the 9th was interesting to me. Was it interesting to you?
Well, it sure was. The thing is that it feels, and again, stats wise, it does show that he, over the month of August has been pretty rough to watch. I actually, in honor of our great Alex Brault, I have what I'd like to call the stat of the day. So I'd like to ask the choir to join me and join us at this moment. Stat of the day. It's not really that great, folks. Daniel Palencia now in the month of August, 10 1/3, 15 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 walks, 14 Ks. Palencia had given up 6 earned runs
all season.
In 38 2/3 innings pitched. So you're starting to see a guy who doesn't have multiple years of experience being put in these tough positions that, of course, we all look back on and for a majority of the year, we're like, wow, Craig really truly believes in this guy and he's earned this opportunity. So would you say, Kyle, that, even so, let's just say that spot right there, right? We were talking about it offline here. Taylor Rogers, Drew Pomeranz, couple names that we probably would have liked to have seen in that position based on the fact of what we've seen from our eye test over the last month from Palencia. But do you think, based on what he's done this year, he earned that opportunity to be in that position in a tie ball game there in the ninth? Is that a dumb question? Because it's really not been great the last, like I said, 10 weeks out there.
Yeah, I mean, I want to reiterate what you said, right? Andrew Kittredge had thrown the last 2 days. Brad Keller had thrown the last 3 days. Ben Brown, you don't want him in that situation, but even if you did think of him in that situation, he threw 2 innings the other day, and typically you're not going to see a pitcher throw twice in a series if he throws more than 1 inning. And then you have Pomeranz, who also didn't look very sharp the other day. And then you have Taylor Rogers and Daniel Palencia. So Carlos Pena on Marquee afterwards said, I would have put in Palencia in the 10th, assuming that you would have had a lead. I think there's 2 sides of this, and this is why I call it interesting, because I don't lean heavily one way or another. I think you and I have always been very outspoken when we have a very crisp and strong take on something. And I think I want everyone to understand that, like, we're not always just trying to come down on Craig. When we have these takes, we actually have these takes. And today I don't have a strong take on Daniel Palencia coming in the 9th inning due to the fact that the options outside of that were not like jumping off the page at you. To me, though, if you put a gun to my head and I said, who do you want in the 9th inning and who do you want in the 10th inning? And you gave me 5 minutes to look at the splits, I would say Taylor Rogers is going to go in the 9th, and I'm going to put Daniel Palencia in the 10th, because I think with a lead, yes, Daniel Palencia has earned that right. Carlos Pena after on Marquee said that's, a tie game is not where you put in Daniel Palencia. That's not who he is. I don't like that. I mean, maybe that's a thing. Maybe I know a lot of people talk about that. It's like, oh, it's not a save situation, so he's not as jacked up. Well, get yourself jacked up. Like, we got to win a game. I don't care. I don't care that we have a lead or not. The fact that you have to take it to the 10th inning with a tie game, to me, is just as important as closing down a 1-run lead. Anyway, you and I looked at the splits. Taylor Rogers against lefties is giving up a lower batting average than versus righties, 229 versus lefties, 247 versus righties. However, the OPS against lefties, 750, is higher than against righties at 714. So you basically can say that no matter if he's facing a righty or a lefty, he's decent. And on the season, he's got a 281 ERA. And most of that damage this season, by the way, came in the last game against the Giants with a 3-run notch on him from an inning and a third. I am interested, and I would really like to ask Craig Counsell, what role does Taylor Rogers play on this team? Because when we got him, I thought to myself, oh, here's a bona fide lefty. And I almost was like, hey, because of the numbers he has this year, he's almost going to be like battling with Caleb Thielbar of like, which lefty do we bring in? Now, when you look at the splits, Thielbar is definitely better. However, it's just strange because to me, Ty, they're treating Taylor Rogers almost like Colin Ray beginning of the season. I mean, listen to this. Since he's been a Cub, he has come in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 losses out of a total of 10 games. 7 of his 10 games that he's appeared in have been losses where they were already trailing, by the way. And then the wins that he's been a part of, up 4-1, up 4-3. So there you go. That was actually a leverage situation. And the other one, up 9-1. You could argue that Taylor Rogers has been in basically one leverage situation since coming over to the Cubs. And I just have to ask why? Why bring in a guy like Kittredge and Rogers and immediately look at Kittredge and say, this guy, he could close some games for us. But Rogers, we don't want him to touch anything of leverage, even though he's got all the experience in the world. It's just, that's the part that I am like, okay, that's questionable. But at the same time, if Daniel Palencia goes out there, throws up a 0, Cubs get 1 or 2 runs in the 10th, and then Taylor Rogers closes it out in the 10th, then we're not talking about this. The players have to perform. And for that reason, I don't think that I put anything on Craig today.
Yeah. I think the other thing too that's interesting about the situation, right? Because you look at the guys who are coming up. Ritter is what is it, 672 OPS. So it's not like a matchup thing with him, right? He was looking for a fastball probably in, which generally speaking with Palencia, it's probably the best thing to do. I think it threw it like 98, I think, on the inner half and got his barrel out and swung it right. Mickey Moniak has a 822 OPS against righties and under almost like I think like a 680 against lefties.
Yeah.
And then you have Tovar, which Tovar is a very nice young player that, right-handed hitter, of course, where you look at his splits and they're pretty even. So basically, the way I look at that situation, just because Mickey Moniak has had such a great year being on the Rockies, I would have been more worried about him in that situation rather than, of course, Ritter or Tovar. So I probably lean Rogers there just because then you get the middle of the lineup with Bretton Doyle, Jordan Beck, and a couple righties in that spot where now you obviously have Palencia probably in a better position. And also, too, like you mentioned, probably with a lead in that spot, hopefully, it's been pretty rough with the offense thus far. But again, that situation right there, I think, persuades me to lean more Rogers in that spot. Please comment below, give us your thoughts, let us know, because again, these are situations where it's coming down to, and I know it's hard to say this because we've said it enough, but again, this comes back to the situation with the $8 million manager, right? In these spots, is he making the right decisions based on numbers, based on the situation? And as we mentioned, Palencia hasn't looked his best.
No.
So do you want him in the 9th or do you want him in the 10th there? I guess that's the question.
I think here's where I'm at. If Keller was available, it's the wrong decision.
100%. 100%.
Keller's not available. Kittredge isn't available. Even if Kittredge was, I still think Palencia is a better decision than Kittredge. And so like you're just basically asking, all right, do we want to have a guy who hasn't thrown a leverage game in a very long time? Do we want to have a guy in Pomeranz who's been struggling probably just as much as Palencia, or do we want to have Palencia? So that's why I'm just kind of like, it's kind of a toss up for me either way. I will say though, Ty, I without spending too much time on game 3, can I say something about the whole road trip in general?
That was what I was going to transition to before we transition to talking about comments from our
transition
listeners.
Before the transition.
We're going to, like, it's just like boom, 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 boom. Yes. But I would love to hear your take on the overall road trip. They went 5-4.
Yeah. I mean, the word is just disappointed, which has been the word for a lot of home series, season series, individual series since the break. But you kind of look at it and you say, okay, before this road trip started, everyone's like, oh, 6-3, 7-2. That's easier said than done, just because when you put in perspective, 6-3 means you win every series. Winning every series on the West Coast, no matter if you're playing the lowly Rockies or the Dodgers, it's just really tough to do. So my first thing is like 6-3. Yes, that would have been the minimum. But then as soon as they swept the Angels, it was like, this should easily be a 6-3 road trip. They haven't been swept all year. They're going to win the series against the Rockies. All you have to do is not get swept against the Giants. And what do? They got freaking swept. And you talk about, Palencia once again. And I didn't get to watch any of the Giants series, which was a nice mental break for me. But being in California, that was blacked out for me. Can't wait till those rules get lifted. But I didn't get to watch that game 3 where Palencia ends up giving up the lead in the 10th inning. Was it the game 3 loss against the Giants?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you said in the 10th?
Yeah. Right.
Let me double check.
Am I remembering that correctly? I think it was. Either way, that
in
felt like
in the ninth.
It was the 9th. Okay, thank you. That to me felt like, okay, now we have all the pressure on this Rocky series. And you said something really good earlier today. Do you want to say what you said, that text about the most dangerous teams?
Yeah, I tweeted it, and
you did. Okay.
Yeah, this is just the way I'm going to read a tweet word for word. The scariest teams to play are the ones who have nothing to lose.
Yeah. And, that's where you want to sweep the Rockies. But Marquis even showed the stat today. The Cubs in their entire history, Ty, over 120 plus years or whatever it is, only have, in terms of a season series sweep of 6 games or more, they've only done that 5 times in their entire franchise history.
Wow.
So even though the Rockies suck, even though the White Sox suck, even though the Pirates suck, it's just really hard to win every single game, no matter if it's against good teams or bad teams. So it's just a lot of pressure to put on yourselves. And so I think they really just, the Giants series kind of defined this road trip to me. Even if the Cubs had come out and swept this series against the Rockies today and went 6-3, all you do is you look at it and you say, what could have been? They could have gone 7-2. They could have gained a game or two against the Brewers. They could have taken a commanding lead against the Padres and the Mets of 4 games. Like there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda beens. And that just, that just didn't happen. So for that reason, now they got to come home and they got to deal with what's at home.
And that is true. Now, what I would like to say is that I just want to thank, as we transition here, want to thank, of course, our listeners who have been just so generous with taking their time for their awesome comments. Some of you do take a lot of time to write these comments. And I don't know if you take a couple hours to write them, but whatever you're doing, keep doing them. Because I'm going to start commenting on these things and just saying good for you, because you really are doing so well. So before we move on to the standings and where the Cubs are at and how it looks here in the month of September in comparison to the Mets and the Padres, we would like to remind you that if you comment on every one of our videos, you can become a part of the Setup Man Bullpen. Bullpen members get their comments read on our shows. We did that for the first time last show, so we'll obviously be talking or posting the comments from what was the episode regarding the sweep against, or getting swept, against the Giants. So we're going to read off a couple comments here. After each of these comments, of course, we'll kind of discuss them. So Kyle, let's start with this one here from Kevin Loeffler, 7909. This will basically be the same team next year because of the no trade contracts minus Tucker. Get used to this. I don't want to get used to this. I'd like to see them make some changes here this offseason. But Kyle, I think the question that I take away from this comment here is, because of the fact that I actually have breaking news to share with you, that Owen Casey has been optioned to AAA and Kevin Alcantara was recalled. So that also just kind of just tells you where the situation is with all these players. But your general take from that comment there.
You can't give me that kind of news and expect me to give you a reasonable response to that. Why? Oh gosh. Okay.
Shout out Alex for sending that over to us, but
yeah,
thanks.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, it's true. I hope they get Kyle Tucker. It doesn't really upset me at all. I mean, the Cubs offense has gone through just a miserable month of August. And outside of that, this has been one of the most exciting teams that we've seen since 2016. So like, as long as they go out and get some pitching, then I'm fine with that. I mean, and if you want a glimmer of hope, guys, on this road trip, Kyle Tucker, 359 batting average, Seiya Suzuki, 286, Michael Busch, 303, Ian Happ, 296, PCA, not so much, 171, but we've been needing this offense to turn it around. And, so, I understand the frustration, but these are also frustrations that are shared when the Cubs are losing, when the Cubs are winning. Look back at all the comments from March, April, May, June, and most of July, and you're like, this is one of the most exciting offenses in all of baseball. So if they can turn around in September, which we'll talk about here in a second, then we'll all forget about August.
Ain't that the truth? Next up here, we have Michael Lampole, 9696. Analytics is supposed to supplement common sense, not replace it. Oh, hey, that might be kind of tied to the decision that we just breaking news here on the Setup Man Network, that Owen Casey, a player that looked pretty damn good for the Chicago Cubs team there for 2 appearances. That comment, of course, can be an entire episode. Mm-hmm. This has been a concern of mine for a long time now as analytics has made their way into baseball. Kyle, we can both agree growing up and playing that analytics were a part of the game, but they were not what like the comment just said, they weren't replacing anything. They weren't replacing the idea behind the game and how the game is played and what to do to win baseball games. They are there to help you. They are there to guide you in certain aspects, but they are not there to replace the way that the player or coach should feel about the game. And again, this goes back to many decisions we've seen this year from this organization.
I have nothing else to say to that. Like you said, we could have a whole discussion on it, but because we got to talk about other things, you nailed it.
Last comment here from Carlos Cristiano 4709. The only numbers the front office cares about is 40 and 13, 40K in the stands and $13 a beer.
Is that all it is? $13?
I was going to say, Carlos, I think it's 40 and 18, my friend.
Yeah.
Because we're about to experience that this upcoming weekend, and I'm looking forward to that. But yes, I would say overall, this organization has this is another episode we can have this offseason on where we are at with this team. But to all three comments and to our listeners, thank you so much for always being engaged. Again, I'm going to spend some time here in the next couple of days and writing up some comments. And please comment below on this video. Give us your thoughts on obviously the road trip that they just had in the West Coast, the decision with Daniel Palencia and what that looks like moving forward, and how just generally you're feeling about this ball club. Okay, Kyle, let's transition now to the standings updates. The Cubs are now 6.5 games behind Milwaukee. That will lead into our discussion of really focusing on the top wild card spot. But your Cubbies do hold that top wild card spot at 78 and 59. San Diego and the Mets both lost today. So the Padres now are at 76 and 61, and the Mets are 73 and 64. We're going to go into what their schedules look like in comparison to the Cubs, strength of schedule, what it looks like. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But before we get into that, we got to talk about a few news. So right off the top, as I just mentioned, Owen Casey has been I don't even have this in my notes because it literally just broke on our episode, but Owen Casey somehow, some way has been optioned to AAA, and Kevin Alcantara has been called back up. This will be really fun to get Kyle's thoughts on this. So Kyle, your thoughts?
I want to talk so much about what the Cubs need to do in September that I just don't really want to go into.
Okay.
Right
So,
because you asked, I mean, assuming that he's healthy.
Why?
Why?
Is this reason?
Yeah.
What has Alcantara done to overtake this?
I mean, okay, first of all, when we found out yesterday that he was coming up, I was like, oh yeah, September call-ups. So now you'll have Casey and Alcantara. Cool. Yep. Then when it turns out, which you're going to break here in a second, the two acquisitions that they had today, then I was like, okay, who's getting moved? Because that's too many. By my count, that's too many on the roster.
Yep.
It's just weird, man. It's weird. I don't know. I don't get it. Let's hope that he's back up in like 2 days and they just wanted to like get Alcantara some work against. I don't know. How do you explain that? Anyway, assuming he's healthy, it's weird. Why? Assuming he's not healthy, then okay, cool. Now Alcantara can ride the bench. Congratulations.
I'm mind blown. All right, let's just get to the other news because we can just set our emotions on fire and not really talk about anything. But obviously, as an arm we just saw today that threw about 300 pitches, the Cubs recalled Porter Hodge, option Jordan Wicks to AAA. Hodge was on the IL with the right shoulder and pitched back on July 9th. He did, of course, get sent to AAA there in late July. And then his month of August in AAA was fantastic. So when I wrote this down before he got in today, 12 innings pitched, 0 ERA, 6 hits, 9 walks, 20 Ks. Felt pretty good about that, but unfortunately, he just did not look good today.
He was bad, and if you remember, he had that blown save last year too in Colorado. So something about Colorado, I think he doesn't like,
or it just could be not his year in general. It's been a sad story for sure. But another news, we'll talk about these two probably the biggest news of the day, besides, of course, the Owen Casey being optioned. But the Cubs claim Aaron Savali off waivers from the White Sox. They DFA Thomas Cosgrove to make room on the 40-man. Savali was a part of the Brewers rotation until he was traded to the White Sox for Babe Ruth. Andrew Vaughn. Back on June 13th. His stats, 3-9 record here in 2025, a 5.26 ERA through 98 innings pitched. He did throw 161 in 2024, 74 Ks at 33 walks. Kyle, I looked at the starting pitching innings or starters and their innings thus far. Of course, Boyd now at, I believe, around 164 to 165. Colin Ray at 132, Schode at 117, Tyone at 106, Brown at 104, and the NL Rookie of the Year favorite at this point, Cade Horton at 98.2. Really the depth pieces that you had besides the names that we listed was Jordan Wicks, who is now in Iowa, and of course now Savali, because obviously Jamison Tyone and Michael Soroka are both on the IL. I thought this was just a nice little depth piece to add, of course, as we go in here into September. That's the only way I look at this.
Yeah, I mean, sure. We're already working with a 6-man rotation, so I don't know. I don't know. I'd rather have Jordan Wicks on the roster, if I'm being honest.
Okay. And that's a valuable point. Savali he throws mainly a cutter for his main pitch, and maybe they just saw something that they can work with. But the fact is that if he was with the Brewers and they got rid of him, that tells you something. Sorry, that's just the way I look at these things these days.
Yeah, and hasn't exactly done that well with the White Sox, but who knows? Maybe they said, "Oh, look what happened with Kopech last year, and look what happened with Andrew Vaughn this year." And all you got to do is just make a trade with the White Sox and get a guy over from the White Sox. And it's kind of like what was that Dane Cook movie where any girl he slept with, they would get married the next time. So that's the kind of way I'm thinking about the White Sox right now. What was the name of that movie?
I don't know. The Cubs signed Carlos Santana. He was released by the Guardians on Thursday. It was unclaimed via waivers. I saw a report that he really wanted to play for a playoff team, and that was the decision as to why he was released by the Guardians or DFA'd, excuse me. But his 2025 stats, a 650 OPS, 11 home runs, 52 RBIs, 86 Ks to 55 walks. His splits this year versus lefties, 681 versus righties, 636. Both the OPS there. He did have a 934 OPS versus lefties in 2024 and 147 at-bats. But unfortunately, with his, even looking at some other things too, Kyle, playoff career, a 685 OPS, so really nothing there. But now both Santana and Savali would be eligible for the playoff roster. Now, that would be a miracle if Savali's on the playoff roster and even Santana. But again, it looks like a veteran ad that they feel like they need, but it's just interesting just because, he's primarily a first baseman. You have Bush and Turner already. Turner has a 754 OPS versus lefties this year with 3 home runs. So I don't know, man. I've been thinking about this one. I don't want to think too much about it just because we've noticed what these moves look like. But again, he's not a young prospect on this ball club, so you could probably expect him to get a few more at-bats than probably we expect.
I'm sure at this point the chat has already written down the name of this movie 14 times, but it's Good Luck Chuck is the name of the movie.
Thank you. Thank you. That helps us. Thank you.
I mean, it just I don't know. The same thing as Savali. I'd rather have Jordan Wicks on the roster. I'd rather have Owen Casey on the roster. I mean,
well said.
I don't know. I don't know why we have to go down this road of let's go just pick up a bunch of washed up veterans that we, by the way, already have on the roster. Let them not contribute down the stretch and then get that one at bat in October and then watch them strike out in a big moment. And meanwhile, Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara are left on the bench. I don't know. Just as you can tell, I show my frustration a little bit different than some people. I'm kind of just like, you're gonna ball how you're gonna ball at this point, Jed Hoyer, and I just don't agree with most of it. And this is just another 2 options that I just don't agree with. Just put in the young guys if you're going. The worst thing that happens, Ty, is that the young guys strike out just like the old guys. But the difference is the young guys get the experience, the old guys are on their way out.
Look, both these moves are complete depth pieces. The only problem is that the difference, or the difference is that Savali is a situation that probably at this point would be good to have some additional ads and additional starting depth there, just because, of course, we're starting to see maybe Boyd and some of these guys maybe needing a little bit of a few more days off. The Carlos Santana one makes no sense whatsoever. I just can't find a reason for having him on the roster.
My question is, how does Aaron Savali give us more depth than what we already have with Jordan Wicks? And Jordan Wicks, who has not looked good since 2022, 2023, when he got the first call up, 2023, when he got the first call up. Ever since then, he hasn't looked that great, but can we say we've actually given him a shot? And that's where my frustration comes in. It's just like, all right, I know Bleacher Nation rallies for him a lot. They want to see him a lot. They post about it a lot. I just, that's where I come from, is like, Savali's not having a good year, and Jordan Wicks hasn't even been given a chance to have any kind of year. So just that's where I come from.
And it's an understandable point. At the same time, though, Jordan Wicks hasn't looked that great. And I get it. He hasn't gotten his opportunities, but your opportunity also, too, is when you step on the mound.
Yeah, I don't know what it, because you gave this information basically. Well, actually, no, you didn't give that. I knew this going into it. I should have looked up some stats. I'm going to look it up now, but I don't know what kind of year he's having for the Iowa Cubs. So I'm going to look that up really quick. It's a 3.47 ERA in the minors this year. I mean, that's why.
What about what are his stats here in 2025 for the big league club?
Oh, I don't even think he's pitched like 5 innings with the big league club this year. I mean, I could be wrong on that. 10 1/3 innings, 8.71 ERA. No starts. So, and there's
definitely two sides to that right there.
Yeah,
there
and he's just never. He's not a reliever. So like that's where I'm just like, just give him a couple starts, and then if it doesn't work out, okay, go get yourself an Aaron Savali. But like you might already have. Anyway, we got other stuff to talk about.
We want to look at, of course, the remaining schedule here for the rest of September. So according to Tankathon.com, which shows a lot of the strength of schedules for all the teams, the Cubs reportedly have the 3rd easiest schedule remaining. That included the last game of the Rocky series today, so that might adjust a little bit after today. But the other 2 teams that are in the running for, of course, that top wild card spot would be the San Diego Padres and the New York Mets. The Padres have the easiest strength of schedule here for the rest of the season, which does concern me. The Mets, though, have the 4th toughest. And the Mets have been sort of an up and down team this year. So I would say right now, my biggest concern, of course, are the Padres. So let's focus on both of those. Let's focus on the Cubs and Padres if we're looking at those 2 teams right now. So, of course, the Cubs have 6 versus Atlanta, 3 versus Washington, 3 versus Tampa Bay, 3 at Pittsburgh, 4 at Cincinnati, 3 versus the Mets, and 3 versus St. Louis. And then San Diego has 3 versus Baltimore, 7 versus Colorado, 3 versus Cincinnati, 3 at New York, 3 at the Mets, 3 at the White Sox, 3 versus Milwaukee, and 3 versus Arizona. So the reason why I'm more focused on San Diego is, Kyle, is because I don't think we have a chance if we have to go to San Diego and play them in a playoff game right now in a 3-game set. They're easily, in my opinion, they have a much better bullpen. Their starting rotation is a little shaky, but then you look at their offense and they have stars all around that lineup. They did just lose Bogarts, which is going to be very concerning there. He's going to be potentially out until the playoffs, and so we'll see what that looks like. But, Kyle, I look at this remaining schedule, and I just say the Cubs, to get to 95 wins, need to go 17-8. That's a big ask there with how this team's looked thus far. Bakota had them at 91, so they need to go 13-12 to beat that. But I don't think 91 will be enough against this Padres team. So just your overall thoughts at that.
Well, either way, I've got this right. Just want to get a quick guess from you. The way that it would work is whether the Cubs are the first wild card spot or the second wild card spot, they're facing the Padres, right?
Let me just double check that really quick with their.
I am looking at a postseason bracket right now, and it says the NL number 5 team and the NL number 4 team are the ones that face off.
So I'll revert my point then, because that was what I actually knew. I'm sorry. The thing is that I just don't want to be in San Diego. Like
I don't want to be in San Diego either.
the only chance you have to beat San Diego is not to
At
be
home.
in San Diego and to be at Wrigley, because you can use Wrigley to your
Which
advantage.
the Padres have played so well at Wrigley the last couple of years. So either way, like it's a bad spot to be in if, to me, no matter if we're at home against the Padres or not. But yeah, you need to get the last home spot. I mean, it's really to me, it's the only chance. That might sound extreme, but to me, it is the only chance that the Cubs have to actually be able to move on to an NLDS series, because you have to rely so much on this team to pitch in the right conditions. And we know that Wrigley will be the right conditions for this starting rotation. It can immediately make a matchup of Dylan Cease versus Jameson Tyone look like a very even matchup. And I know Dylan Cease is not having a great season, so that's probably not a great comparison, but just to put it in perspective, that's why you need to be at Wrigley. Did I answer your question?
Oh, no, it did,
Yeah.
because we got to talk a little bit about what this looks like. And I'm not, and folks, I am not counting out the Mets in this spot here. It's just that I've watched a lot of the Mets this year, and they're really a hit or miss team. I know that they have Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Mark Vientos has looked better as of late. Pete Alonso is great. But if we're looking at the standings right now and the strength of schedules, my view of this is that we would likely see it come down to the wire between the Padres and the Cubs. So looking at all of these games, right? So if you look at it and you say the Cubs probably need to win 4 out of 6 versus Atlanta, you got to win that stretch there, because that's a key stretch, because Atlanta looks pretty good. We'll talk about them because they're facing them this upcoming week. But then you go down the rest of the schedule and you're like, holy smokes, like you're talking trying to win every single series and trying to split against Cincy. I mean, that's a tall task. That gets you to 16. If you win 4 out of 6 versus Atlanta, you split against Cincy, and you win every other season, and you win every other series, you get 16 wins there. So 16 puts you at 94 wins. 94 wins makes me feel a heck of a lot more comfortable than, of course, what we said. So, like, just as I mentioned earlier, the standings, right? The Cubs are at 78 and 59. San Diego's at 76 and 61. And the Mets are at 73 and 64. So that's kind of the way that I look at the remaining schedule here, is like you're going to have to win a lot of season series. You're going to have to win pretty much every other series. But, I mean, against the Mets, like, it just gets a little tough.
So
it does get a little tough.
So you think it'll take 94 wins to secure that last spot, is basically what you're saying there?
I actually believe that is the case. I think
So
San Diego is that good, especially with the strength of schedule.
My issue with that is that the Cubs would have to be a 16-9 team for the last 25 games, and we have not seen this team be a 16-9 team since that 21 game stretch against the worst part of their schedule, where they went 16-5. And
if you think I'm comfortable saying the Cubs are going to, you think I have optimism about that? It's not.
Yeah.
It's not what I'm coming from.
Yeah, no. But I don't disagree with what you're saying, because I mean, the Padres do have a really simple schedule, but I also don't think the Padres are going to play that well down the stretch. I think 92 gets you there. That's the number for me.
Well, losing Bogarts was a big hurt, or like that really changes things, because he's had a really good year for them, and him moving back to short this year and really coming to be one of the leaders on that team, like that stuff hurts. I mean, that's the same situation, in my opinion, if you lose Swanson. Like that's the way I look at it. Just because you losing your shortstop when they are defensively solid, offensively, obviously we have had our challenges with Swanson, but has is over 20 home runs, I believe, on the year thus far. So it's tough. So here, let me read off let me just go to their roster really quick.
I would like to push back just a little bit, just because I don't think Xander Bogaerts is that much of a difference maker for them. He's having a 3-WAR season. I can name 4 other Cubs that are doing better than Xander Bogaerts, and I don't know. I hear you for sure. I understand, but I look at his offensive numbers, and I just think he's basically Ian Happ with a better average right now.
Yeah, but now the issue for them though is you don't really have anybody to play short besides Jose
Sure.
Iglesias, who's
You
shown
saw what
some
happened last year.
magic.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey
yeah.
man, well, yeah. I mean, next thing you know, you got Manny Machado and Tatis in the middle of the field
Yeah.
singing his song. Oh my God! But I mean, that's where my point comes from. I'm not saying that he's that great of a player that it's going to hurt them for leaving. I just think that they
Because of
don't
the
have the
position.
depth.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I can buy into that.
I,
I still
I
think
just
92. I still think 92 is the number.
92. So then you're talking. So then you're saying is so you could probably you could afford to lose
If
two
they go
games.
14 and 11
14 and
in the
11.
next
Okay.
25 games, I think they have a good shot. I'm not saying that they will do it, but I think they have a good shot at remaining the number 1 seed for the playoffs.
So let's do this then.
Number 1 seed from the wild card.
Let's do this. We still got a few more. I blocked off a few more minutes for this. Okay. So you're saying 14 and 11. So the Cubs right now, what are they the season series against the Padres?
Ooh, I don't know that off the top of my head.
They lost 2 out of 3 in San Diego. And then they win that series against San Diego and Chicago. Can you look that up for me?
Yeah, I'll be surprised if they did, but I'll look it up. Do you remember? Was that May?
That would have been May. Would have
Okay.
been the
In
series.
May, they it must have been April. No, it was April. I remember that now.
Yeah, okay.
That was they lost that series. So 2-4 against the Padres this year.
2-4. Okay. So let's look at this. So San Diego
Oh,
right now.
wait. Sorry, that was at 3-3. Sorry, my mistake. I was looking at.
Wow. So I wonder
3-3.
what the I can't remember what the differential is after
I think
that.
it's the runs
Run differential?
run differential. Is it
Okay.
not?
That sounds about right. So what I was going to do with you, Kyle, here was look at the rest of their schedule. So they're technically, so we're 78 and 59. They're 76 and 61. Call that, what is that? 2? Is that 2 games back? Right.
Mhm.
So now you're saying is that so out of their next, call it 25 or so. So let's look at their schedule. So 3 versus Baltimore, most likely going to win 2 out of 3 right there. Right. Okay. After
Yes.
that, they go 7 versus Colorado. They could easily, easily win 6 out of 7 in that series there. Then they go 3 versus Cincinnati, which is not an easy task these days. They haven't been, I know Cincinnati is still fighting for that last wild card spot, but that's not necessarily something that they should be all comfortable with. And then they have a critical series going to New York. That'll be critical. If the Mets can do us a solid, win 2 out of 3 there, I'm feeling good. Then 3 at the White Sox, which you just don't know. I mean, we just saw it with the Cubs. These teams that don't care, and hey, the White Sox have been a little frisky this year. We've seen them obviously in our what we've
For
seen.
sure.
Milwaukee and then Arizona, which at home against Milwaukee and at home against Arizona, it's one of those things. I look at it and say, I almost look at their schedules. Do you look at the Cubs schedule and San Diego schedule as pretty much very similar?
Yeah,
Rest of the year.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
I do think the Cubs are going to have a tougher time. The Braves do scare me just because that lineup, even though they're not playing well this year, that lineup could have they could sweep us in Atlanta, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yep.
Just like the Giants did. Tampa Bay is not a pushover. The Pirates haven't exactly been a pushover this year. At the Reds for 4 is not easy. Then you got the Mets and the Cardinals, but luckily those are at home. I mean, even though that's the third easiest, I still think that there's like, I could see us dropping a few of those series. By the way, I did look it up. Tiebreaker is head-to-head record and then intra-division. So they would look at, which I don't understand this. They look at the Cubs versus their division and the Padres versus their division, and they say which one had the better record.
Well,
I don't think that really makes sense.
That's okay. Well, either way, we're gonna keep everyone afloat as we go through the rest of the series, the season here, because really, if you look at it, the Cubs going 14-11, the Padres then would have to go 16 or 17. At that point. So again, it's
who's your okay. Let me ask you this: take the Padres out of this. Who's like 1 or 2 guys for the Cubs that you're just like, they no doubt have to have a good September?
Seiya. That's my number 1 guy. It's Seiya. I don't even think it's even close.
Oh, really?
Because I think of how critical it is him being behind Tucker. Because Tucker is now starting to show that he's getting on base. I need to see Seiya have some big hits. He had that hit today. He's had some good swings as of late. But man, if he could have an unbelievable month of September, I think that changes a lot of things. The other guy I look at is PCA. I think
That's
if
mine.
those two guys you're talking offensively, I think overall with the rotation, we kind of know what we're going to get at this point. The bullpen, we know what we're going to get at this point. I look at Seiya and I look at PCA.
It's PCA for me, just because I think Seiya is a really good one. I think that probably, if we have to focus on offense, that's probably 1 and 2 for me, PCA and then Seiya. I just look at Pete's second half, man, and even with Kyle Tucker playing well now, I really thought Kyle Tucker playing well would be like the thing that got everyone going, and it has gotten a few other guys going. I just mentioned some other stats on this road trip, but it hasn't gotten PCA going. And we look at the record from this road trip, and I don't want to put it all on one guy, but I mean, the dynamic player that Pete Crow Armstrong has been this year and the lackluster guy he's been here in the second half. I mean, tie the stats: 216 batting average, 261 on base, and only a 374 slug for a just measly 636 OPS. He only has 3 home runs in the second half, but the bigger thing, Ty, he's only attempted to steal. Guess how many times he's attempted to steal in the second half in now 38 games?
5.
7 times.
Wow.
Yeah. And he has been unsuccessful 3 times. So he's only 4 for 7 in steals. And like, if you're not going to slug anymore, at least make your singles automatic doubles, basically. And I look at that, compare that to the first half of the season. First of all, 847 OPS. He attempted to steal 31 times and was successful 27 of those times. We saw this last year for Pete when he had that streak of like, hey, to start a season or to start a MLB career, 22 consecutive stolen bases or whatever it was, and like he was untouchable. And then he got caught stealing, and he got really hesitant after that. And I mean, his sprint speed hasn't gone down. He's still in the 97th percentile for all of baseball, and he's only stolen 4 games in the second half. And it's just like, I know that this guy is a head case. We all know this guy's a head case. He flips the bats, he screams into his helmet, he does it all. But when it starts to impact your decisions on the base paths, and you're supposed to be a base running guy. I mean, he told Cole right before the season, I'm gonna steal 63 bases this year. We're close to that. You're at 30, brother. And he's just not trying. And that not trying in regards to like, he's not making an attempt to even steal. So that's my guy. If he creates chaos like he did in the first half, but does it now here in September, I think you're going to see an offense that takes off.
He was in, folks, second for MVP odds, for NL MVP odds, just a few months ago.
Yeah.
And so it's unfortunate. I'll end it here with this, Kyle, as we move on to the Atlanta series, because those are some great points you brought up about Pete. And that was a great question, by the way. Comment below. Give us your give us your thoughts. Like, do you believe that it's PCA or Seiya, or is it somebody else like Kevin Alcantara? I'm kidding. So let's end it with this. I'm looking at the remaining schedule here. So again, Padres are 2 games behind the Cubs for the remaining playoff spot. If your Cubbies go 14-11, the Padres don't win 16 games, the Cubs will have officially the top wild card spot. If the Padres do go 16-9 and the Cubs were to go 14-11, it would come down to that intra-division record, which, again, that puts emphasis on those games against Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. So it's going to be a wild September, folks. But we know that you're going to need some gear here, and we want you to hear from our friends at Obvious Shirts where to get that.
Setup Nation, I want to take a quick break so that you know how you can support our channel and wear some cool swag like this. We've teamed up with Obvious Shirts to give you a chance to have your very own Setup Man shirt or hat. Pick from 3 different types of shirts, or my personal favorite, the trucker hat. Go to the link in the description of this video and podcast to claim your Setup Man apparel. And thank you so much for supporting our channel.
A sincere thank you to everyone. And again, as we mentioned earlier, please, 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 if you're able to make it out for the games on Friday and Saturday, we're looking forward to meeting some of you in person, as Kyle just posted up here on the screen. Again, a reminder, Friday will be, of course, in the bleachers, meeting on Gallagher Way after the game. And then on Saturday, we'll be in the left field bleachers with Cody Del Mendo. Okay, so Kyle, a very important series coming up here Monday through Wednesday against the Atlanta Braves. The projected starters for the Cubs for games 1, 2, and 3 go Ray, Imanaga, and Cade Horton. Right now, I don't know. I haven't looked here during the show, but prior to the show, there was no projected starters. My guess is, Kyle, is that we're going to see in game 1 either Spencer Strider or Joey Wentz. Game 2, we'll probably see Cal Quantrill or Wentz or Strider, depending on how they fix that. And then Bryce Elder is who I'm guessing they'll see game 3 on Wednesday. Kyle, this Braves lineup, I know it's been a disappointing year for the Braves, but the Braves hitters since the All-Star break are posting a 741 OPS when there were 703 prior to the break. That, of course, came with a lot of news. Guys like Jurickson Profar getting suspended. Michael Harris having a really disappointing start to the year. Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back from injury. So just wanted to read you some of these stats that I've seen from these hitters thus far. And this is why I believe it's going to be a very tough series to win 2 out of 3, especially when they go to Atlanta here. I believe that's next week. Jurickson Profar has a 1,056 OPS in the month of August. Matt Olson has an 827 OPS over the year. You got guys like Ronald Acuna Jr., Drake Baldwin, who's come onto the scene and actually was receiving, I'm be interested to see where he's at now in NL Rookie of the Year voting. But Ozzie Albies, of course, is a veteran that you can't look past. Michael Harris, who had a very, very tough start to the year. He posted an 850 OPS in July and then an 881 OPS in August. And then Marcelo Zuna, who is a player that anytime, anywhere, kind of like Eugenio Suarez, can put one over into the Wrigley Field bleachers. He has a 762 OPS on the year thus far. I mean, 2 out of 3 is the goal, Kyle. It's going to come, though, we're going to have to see guys like Seiya and PCA step up in a series like this.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to see the Kyle Tucker carried over back to Wrigley. That's what I'm looking for. You talk about PCA being outwardly a guy that gets in his head. Kyle Tucker inwardly seems like a guy that gets in his head. Boog and JD have pointed it out. In the middle of a game, Kyle Tucker will change his belt because he's not feeling it, right? Like he'll start at one point he had blue under sleeves, then he changed it to red, middle of the game. So I think the Wrigley faithful needs to all look at those stats from the road trip and just be very aware of that, because he still had a couple hitless games on this road trip. So if he comes back and he goes 0 for 4 the first night, let's not get the boo birds out. He had an incredible road series. Yep. So I just would like to see him have a nice series, hit a home run, drive in a few runs, go 4 for 12, something like that, just to prove like, okay, I'm really, truly back. It's not just a road thing.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle Tucker over the last 15 days is over 1,000 OPS.
Yeah. There you go.
Tells you, man, things can change, but it took a little bit. There's no doubt about it, but you make a very, very good point there, Kyle. Please just let's give this guy what he deserves for what he's done over this road trip, because I don't think we're even above 500 if he doesn't have that road trip.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I did look it up. Has been announced. Spencer Strider leads it off. Yay.
Okay. Great.
Wentz and then Elder.
Got it. Okay. So they just bumped out Cal Quantrill. Okay. I mean, when you're looking at that lineup now, so like I said, we're going to see Colin Ray then versus Spencer Strider. That game is concerning, of course, with just, it's Spencer Strider at the end of the day. So 2 out of 3, I'm looking more at that Tuesday, Wednesday matchup. So I say to this, is that it'd be nice to see a Kyle Tucker or a PCA home run off of Strider to really propel them through the rest of the series. I think that would do absolute wonders.
Yeah, I mean, give that to me all day long, for sure.
It's pretty easy to say. I think you need to,
even though this is a dangerous lineup, even though you said all the things, right? What is the Braves record? It's well under 500, 61-75. You're at Wrigley. You've got your best pitcher going in the game. You've got your second best pitcher in the second half going in the game in this series. You got to win at least 2 out of 3. You just have to. And ideally, you come out and you find a way on Monday to win against Spencer Strider as well, even though Colin Ray has been, I mean, you might as well put Savali in based on what you heard me say from earlier in the show. He has not been very good recently. So I would love if they could get off to a great start on Monday, get a win. That makes game 2 and 3 a little bit easier. Maybe we go ahead and sweep a series, but at the very least, you got to get a series win here.
Sure do. Kyle, this has been a great episode. It was a great discussion on just where this team and what they have to do here for the remaining schedule. It's, I mean, I can't believe we're into September. This season has flown by. To think that this team could have a possibility of getting over 90 wins, we all would have taken prior to this season. And at times, we felt like this team could be a 100 ball club win team. We really did at the beginning of the season. But I think you and I can both agree, as avid baseball watchers and love this game so much, that 162 is truly a grind. And I think the dog days of summer have really hit this ball club in the month of August. And I just hope that they can just, start off anew on Monday against the Atlanta Braves in your home ballpark and finding a way to win a baseball game. That's all I need. Just find a way.
Here's like now that you say it that way, there's one thing that I just really would like to say. This is the 25 games that will define the season, right? You've got to come out strong. You've got to win at least 14, 15 of these next 25. And you've got to see Craig Counsell make decisions of stacking wins, not giving guys rest. We are through with rest. It is time to get wins. It is time to put your A lineup out there and to stop thinking 20 games down the road of, will Nico be okay if we don't sit him for today's game? Our best guy with runners in scoring position, he needs a day off. Willie Castro looked like what today. So if we're going to keep on doing that, especially on getaway days, you might as well pencil in 12 or 13 wins and go basically 500 in the month of September and claim that 5th or 6th wild card spot, because the Padres have like you said, the easiest schedule out there. We've got to see a manager. We've got to see decisions that are about win now, and we'll figure it out tomorrow.
Well said. That was beautiful. That was incredible. Well, to everyone that tuned in, we know this is a little bit of a longer episode, but we just knew that there was so much to discuss as we go in here into the last 25 game stretch of the season. And again, we, just like you all, want to see this team do incredibly well and have a home playoff series at Wrigley. That'd be pretty special. Well, Kyle, great episode, my friend. Thank you for joining me here today. And to all of you, thank you so much for listening to another edition of the Setup Man podcast. I need gotta ice up, man. I gotta ice up pretty much everywhere these days. But again, thank you so much for listening to the Setup Man podcast, and we'll see you again here soon.